And for more on this monster storm, I am joined by AccuWeather Meteorologist Paul Williams. Right behind you there, Paul, that monster. Give us the latest track.
Well, that monster is still marching along and roaring like a lion that really has not given us any quarter. We can actually see a double eye that's developing, the internal eye here, but then there's a secondary eye that has yet another impactful set of winds. Now, here's what we have available right now. We have winds rolling in at about 175 miles per hour. So it's actually been downgraded from 185 to 175, still a Category 5. Location is at 20.9 north, 71.1 west, moving to the west-northwest at 16 miles per hour. Now, it's 175 mile per hour wind, so you can see we're still well into the Category 5 category of storms. Now, here's the latest looking on the tracking. Now, it was just mentioned it's supposed to turn towards Florida. There's a couple of factors in that, but first of all, the initial track is indicating by the time it reaches Cuba, it should be a Category 4, and that's by 2 a.m. Saturday morning. Then we're looking for a turn to the north by Sunday by 2 p.m., and it'll begin to strike the southern tip of Florida and then march through Florida and be downgraded to a Category 1 because it should be over land by then. Here's the tricky part here. We're expecting for it to move along the East Coast for right now. It's not a guarantee that it's going to work out that way, Mike, because there's a lot of factors that go into this thing, and I want to quickly try to show you this. Here's what's happening. This high-pressure system, which is out in the Atlantic, I want you to think of this high as your hand slinging a yo-yo, and I want you to think of Irma as the yo-yo, you know, doing those big walk-the-dog things or whatever. So now, if it slings Irma and it still has its influence, it'll sling it along the East Coast. Problem is, this high, or your hand, is going to move out further. So if it moves out further, it won't have the slinging effect on Irma, and Irma could come along the west coast. You'll also have another set of steering winds courtesy of this high pressure system, but once again, if it comes along the west coast, it's a totally different thing because it'll rip through more of Cuba and then cause even more problems with wakes or heavy waves of water coming in on the other side of Florida.
Paul, I haven't played with a yo-yo in some time, but that was a good analogy. A lot of people get hung up on the eye of the storm, but the width of this monster storm is what's truly amazing. It's the size of Texas or France. Give us a sense of what that means for Florida.
You know, I like your question because it's astute, because a lot of people mess up by thinking it's the eye, it's the eye. Actually, it's not the eye. It's what's around the eye that poses the problem. If the eye moves like it's supposed to, and we have hurricane force winds. Now look at this. We're looking at hurricane force winds throughout all of Florida, no matter what side it comes on. And because it's so big, it's covering all of Florida anyway. And if it happens to make its way into the southeast corner of Georgia, into southern portions of South Carolina, we're still looking at the very least, best case scenario, 75 mile per hour winds sustained. That's nothing to sneeze at. And then we have like 5 main concerns here: rain and damaging winds, beach erosion, travel disruption, let's call it travel stoppage totally, power outages like crazy, not just Puerto Rico, but even in good old developed USA. We're looking at massive power outages for an extended period of time because of the girth and the strength of this storm.
Paul, one other question. Hurricane Jose just got upgraded to Category 3. It is on its tail. You track these storms for a living. You ever seen anything quite like this season? And what will Jose mean for these people that have already been walloped by Irma?
No, I knew you were going to ask me about Jose. That's why I skipped forward, because I knew you would ask me about that. Here's a look at Irma right now. Here's where Jose is at this present time. Jose is now gaining strength because, unfortunately, Jose is at 120 miles per hour. But here's the key to Jose and why it's a problem. Jose expected to skip along the area that just had the hurricane. Now, good news is Jose is supposed to curve out a little bit further away from, let's say, the Bahamas, but still skipping along the Windward Islands and just to the north of Puerto Rico, where you don't necessarily need any additional damage. At 120 miles per hour, we're looking at least a Category 3, possibly between a Category 2 and Category 3 with Jose alone. And Jose is just following the path of Irma to a certain extent. We need Jose to go away, but Jose is following his big sister.
Paul Williams with the latest. Thanks so much.